Hey, this is Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing, Magic, and Mysticism, here to talk to you more about the occult and the paranormal. Today I'm going to be talking about connecting with your inner child for psychic development. But before I get into that, as usual, I will make my announcements, and that is I just added some attunements to my Etsy attunement store. In fact, I just added Cloud Neck, which is a goetic spirit of finance, prosperity, wealth. So he is very popular and has a reputation for being able to deliver. So you consider getting a Claw Neck attunement and being able to use that energy and even to connect with him in order to get some of the results that you seek. Also, a few days before that, I went and did a St. Jude attunement, put that in the store. So if you are in dire straits and or you are in a difficult situation, feel free to connect with St. Jude and use his energy in order to change whatever it is that seems to be an obstacle for you. So let's get started. So if this video is about the inner child, connecting with it in order for psychic development, what is an inner child? Well, this idea, for me, I became aware of it in the 1980s after seeing John Bradshaw on television. He was a motivational speaker and therapist, and he was in the field of addiction recovery, family therapy, family dysfunction, and he was on PBS, and he was quite popular. He wrote several books. One of them, I think, is called Homecoming, which was a bestseller at the time. So when we're talking about the inner child, it is considered a part of you. In hypnosis, for example, they have this idea of different parts and trying to connect and interact with these parts, negotiating, compromising with them in order to create change and healing and that sort of thing. So there is this part, this you, that is still a child, and that is considered your inner child. And this inner child can be, I guess, wounded through abuse, neglect, trauma that happened when you were, let's say, younger. Or, maybe if there was much less of that, you might have a fairly healthy inner child. So, but I'm not going to go too far into that, working with inner child as a form of self-improvement or therapy, because that's kind of beyond the focus of this video today. So, why are we talking about this today? So the inner child has strengths and abilities that we may have been disconnected from. See, one of the things about children in general are that they are very open, they're very flexible, they are very intuitive and psychic. Now, some say that is because they are very new to the world, so they're coming from the world of the unseen. They are here now, they haven't had enough life experience to develop all of the filters and the integration of societal beliefs that will kind of shape and perhaps squash a lot of that. So they are naturally very intuitive. In fact, the young children, their perception of invisible friends or imaginary playmates may not be so imaginary. But as we get older, as I've said, things change. So, speaking of an adult, we as adults, of course, we have a lot of responsibilities, especially if you're a parent, or even if you're not. You have jobs, you have friends, you have people to take care of, and you don't have the bandwidth to take care of all of that necessarily and to be as open as a child. So what we focus on is what we become. And sometimes it appears that we don't have that connection to that part of us. So what we have to try to do, at least to work with this, is to try to reawaken that child, to connect with it, and then develop the strengths and abilities, or maybe I say not develop, but in order to try to allow that to flow back into us. Because, and how do we do that? Well, I mentioned openness. When you're open, you're more likely to receive the signals from the universe through omens and signs, whispers. Many times we get spoken to as far as our psychic abilities through things that are quite subtle. Flexibility, that's another thing that is an aspect of the inner child that we are trying to connect with. You know, we become a lot of times too rigid in our thinking and our philosophies and our dogma about politics, and the way to develop flexibility and openness would be with playfulness. To be able to remember what it was like to play as a child and how you got so into it and it felt so good, and it was almost like a flow state where you were paying perfect attention. I like to think of it as non-focused focused. So one of the things that I suggest that everyone does, and if they want to get in touch with that childlike part, is to play games. In fact, go and try to remember what type of games that you used to play when you were real young. For some of us, it was things like marbles, pick-up sticks, board games like Connect 4, Candyland. I remember playing, but then there's group games, Red Rover and things like that. I forgot about that. But think about the individual games necessarily that you could play by yourself if you couldn't get some of your friends to do this. Of course, you can involve them if you want to make this a group project among your friends. You could also maybe borrow someone else's children. I say borrow, like maybe if you had nieces and nephews that were fairly well behaved, that didn't stress you out, because of course you're trying to cultivate this openness, playfulness, this flexibility. Now, when you're going through this process and you're successful, just having these states is not going to all of a sudden, create a whole bunch of psychic information coming through. It's the starting point, because again, that the signals from the universe are faint, and you want to be open so that the filters are open. So one of the things that you would have to do is it has to start with the expectation that you will receive these impressions, and that way you're going to be cueing your mind and your openness to sort for that, and for that to become into your awareness. So there is a goal here. There's a context. It isn't just to be playful and to be open and to be flexible. Also, you could use this playfulness, once that you get in the habit of getting into it, you can use it in some of your work. For example, with tarot. One of the things that can kill tarot impressions is just to kind of just stare at it and be too analytical, like it's a mathematical equation, and getting into your head and saying, okay, so this book says that this means that. And if you get too much into your head about it, you're going to cut off the impressions. Sometimes you actually have to kind of make up a story, and it may start out making it may seem like you're making things up, but you're not. But that's how you kind of use the imagination, and again, imagination is something that is well developed in children, using your imagination as a vehicle to connect with the psychic impressions. So in any case, this is just kind of an introductory video on this. So I encourage you all to get in touch with that part of the inner child and your childlike parts of you, while hopefully retaining your maturity, because you can connect with an inner child and have it possess you and you make all types of poor decisions. So you want to maybe have, like, 70-80% inner child, but still have enough percentage of you being able to interact in the world responsibly. So again, I'm going to put links to my Etsy store. I also have a Patreon where I put extra material, extra videos, and I just posted one last week. I think it was on beginning setup of a Jupiter altar. Alright, so folks, you have a good weekend, and I hope to see you soon. Take care.